On this week's Political Figure episode, we've got a self-proclaimed, deeply religious Christian who's a state rep from the state of Texas. So if you can imagine, he seems pretty fucking awesome, actually. James Del Talarico was born May 17th, 1989 in Williamson County, Texas, making him a millennial, and one I think you'll be proud to own if you're a millennial too. Before I get going, it is not very often that I do state reps because it gets a little too hyper-localized to have the mass appeal to the, audience that I have. But I do think that this guy deserves the spotlight. Not that I can do much for that because he's already got a bigger social media platform than I do. But I'm gonna try nonetheless. Now, James was the grandson of a Baptist preacher from Texas, which on its face does not sound like a great start. But his grandfather told him that Christianity really just boils down to two simple things. Love God, duh, and love your neighbor, which should also be a duh, but seems to be the things that Christians struggle with the most. And apparently he instilled that means every neighbor, not just the straight white Christian dude neighbors. Talarico would go on to get a bachelor's in government from the University of Texas, and then go on to get his master's in education from fucking Harvard, which I think Harvard's off of our shit list, at least momentarily. I don't know. I can't keep track. The Trump administration makes for having very strange bedfellows in this brave new world. Seriously, whoever thought that us and the Cheneys would be on the same side of literally anything. Hell, I've spent the majority of my life wishing that Dick Cheney and I weren't even on the same side of this plane of existence. Like, come on, heart attack number 43, you got this. All right, anyway, a little off topic, but James is currently pursuing a second master's of divinity at Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary. I didn't know you could get a master's in divinity. I knew you could get one in theology. I don't know what a master's in divinity actually is, and I don't feel like looking it up because I don't care that much. But he's getting one, and the man has more masters than I do, so can't judge whatever he's getting him in. In 2011, he joined Teach for America, which if you don't know what that is, it's where teachers volunteer to go teach in like some of the tougher schools, to put it gently, that they really struggle to find teachers for, and in exchange you get some of your student loans forgiven. It's a program where I've got a ton of respect for anybody who has ever volunteered to do it, because you're committing to a job where you know that the facility is going to be understaffed and underfunded. You are going to lack any even basic resources that most teachers would take for granted. You're generally going to be teaching poverty-stricken students who have a lot of stuff going on that is really heavy to deal with, and you're generally going to be doing this fresh out of college when you have very little experience, so you're trial by fire. It's pretty much the program that produces those teachers that they make movies about, where, they go into those really poverty-stricken schools and they fight really hard to reach that one class or that one kid who's just got all that potential just buried underneath teenage angst and poverty. Teach for America teachers are those people in real life. Then after a few years of serving his community's youth, he decided to change it up. And in 2018, he ran for the Texas State House of Representatives. During his campaign, Talarico walked the entire length of his district, meeting with constituents, and was rewarded by winning his special and general election. And since being in office, James has been incredibly effective, which is saying something because he's a Democrat in a state that is ruled by Republicans. He got an $11.5 billion education and property tax reform bill pushed through. He helped pass a $25 cap on insulin prices in Texas. He supported House bills that would allow Texas to import cheaper Canadian medications. He supports police reform and helped pass legislation banning cops and police departments from partnering with TV shows. He passed juvenile criminal justice reform that helps increase accountability for Texas's juvie system and allows kids in the system to earn a high school diploma. In response to problems with fentanyl, instead of just blaming brown people and Mexicans for some unknown reason, he passed legislation to make sure that every high school was equipped with Narcan. He helped work on legislation that expanded pre-K and childcare programs and put a cap on the number of kids that could be in a pre-K class. And that's just the stuff he's passed. He's continuously putting out legislation that Texas will probably never pass, but at least they can't say they didn't have the opportunity, like legalizing marijuana, which they actually just reverse Uno carded the little bit of like loophole legalization for marijuana that Texas had, because Texas hates freedom. He's introduced bills that are for pro-union reform, bills that address climate change, bills that would give teachers raises. He's pro-women's bodily autonomy and healthcare. He's opposed abortion bans. He's introduced legislation to bring Texas's laws back to pre-Roe v. Wade getting appealed abortion rulings. Granted, once again, not passed, but he's putting it out there. And remember, this is all from a self-described deeply religious Christian. A deeply religious Christian who has been one of the loudest opponents of Texas trying to remove that all-important barrier between church and state. And that opposition is what has garnered him well-earned national attention. Because unlike those pretend white Republican gun-toting Jesus Christians, James is getting a master's of divinity, or whatever that means, and he actually knows his shit. And he lives by it. And that gives him the unique ability to embarrass the shit out of performative Christian legislatures like this.
What is the fourth commandment?
Keep the Sabbath.
Part of keeping the Sabbath holy is not working on the Sabbath?
That is, yeah.
What day is the Jewish Sabbath?
It is on Saturday.
And what day is it today?
It is Saturday. here we are.
The Christian Sabbath is what day?
Sunday, in honor of the day that Jesus rose from the dead.
And we're scheduled to give this bill a final vote on what day of the week?
It's ironic, isn't it?
Would you be willing to postpone your bill so that we're not breaking the Ten Commandments by working on the Jewish or Christian Sabbath?
I love that you said that because
You're saying that you'd rather tell people to follow the Ten Commandments than follow it yourself?
I would have rather have had this bill passed the other day when it was time.
We as a legislature are about to force every teacher in the state to post the Ten Commandments in their classrooms.
If
Do
they are
members
donated.
of the Texas legislature follow the Ten Commandments? The Ninth Commandment is thou shalt not bear false witness. Are you aware of any legislators who have lied about anything?
That is, there might be one coming up in a minute if you keep talking. We'll see.
The Seventh Commandment is thou shalt not commit adultery.
Yes.
Do you think that members of the legislature should focus more on trying to follow the Ten Commandments rather than telling others to follow them?
It is incumbent on all of us to follow God's law.
Can we also just take a moment to laugh about the fact that this bitch trying to put the 10 commandments in schools and she's got to look up what the fourth one was? There's only 10 of them. If you're that passionate about putting them in schools, you think you take a little bit of time to remember what the fuck they are. It's also fucking hilarious how he's like, yeah, thou shalt not commit adultery is one of the commandments, right? Anyway, no reason, moving on. All of that was just such beautiful passive-aggressive shade that this man should be Midwest. I think he's a long-lost one of us. Also gotta admit, Texas, you got some problems, like a lot of problems, like all of the problems. You have all of the problems. And well, Texas is definitely a petri dish in many ways. It must be the petri dish that is required to culture some of the most badass politicians in the country. Granted, there's also a lot of toxic mold in that petri dish, like Ted Cruz and Wheels of Misfortune. But people like James and Jasmine and Al Green are showing us that the politicians that just might save us could come from the one-star state. And if James, who has been named one of the top 10 best legislators in Texas, can continue to be as effective as he has been, then just maybe we can up the Yelp review on the Texas state flag from 1 star to 2 or 3. Anyway, you should definitely give James Talarico a follow if you don't already, because some days he can single-handedly give you hope that even though we're totally fucked, we might not be totally fucked. And it's just refreshing to see young, progressive, assertive leadership coming out of regressive states, showing us some of the best that our country has to offer in a time when it is being run by the worst our country has ever seen. So thank you, James Talarico, because I know I and many, many others around the country, even though we are not in your state, let alone your district, really find the work that you're doing incredibly important. And we look forward to seeing a lot more of you in the future.